Hey guys, welcome to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today I want to share with you my anticipated releases for the third quarter of 2021. All right, so this year I have, for the first time, been doing anticipated releases every 3 months, and I have really been enjoying kind of being more on top of what is coming out and trying to find some hidden gems that aren't really that talked about, because I feel like before I was always only aware of the big books that were coming out and not all the fun kind of under the radar books. And so today I have either 15 or 16 books to share with you. I'm not quite sure, but I have a list here of books I want to share with you. These are only my adult and YA books. I will have another video that will have my middle grade books, but I think for the most part, most of these are just adult books. So let's get into this. These will be in order of release date. So I will mention that as well. And I'm going to be looking over here because that's where my list is. But the first book that I want to talk about is The 7-Day Switch, which comes out on July 1st. And this is a book that is about two different moms. One is more like the Pinterest on top of it mom, like really hands-on. She's a stay-at-home mom. And the other one is a working mom that is very like productivity and kind of putting her kids in camps and that sort of thing. And it's these two moms that do not see eye to eye on things. And it ends up being like a Freaky Friday situation where they end up swapping bodies for a day. And well, I think it's 7 days. It's a freaky week. And so is what it says on here. And so they end up switching bodies and kind of, it's a Freaky Friday situation, but moms. And so I thought that that sounded like a ton of fun, something I would really like. The next book comes out on July 13th, and that is Taken at Birth, Stolen Babies, Hidden Lies, and My Journey to Finding Home by Jane Blasio. This is a story about well, it's not a story, it's a nonfiction book about a girl who went through, I think it was North Georgia, in a small North Georgia town. It was basically this, the Hicks Clinic is what it was. And they would deliver babies and then kind of usher them out the back door and sell them, adopt them out to rich white people from the north that wanted babies, and then they were told lies. The mothers who had given birth were told lies about their babies, and this girl finds out that she was one of the babies, and it's kind of her search for what happened with her and her birth family. So that sounded very reminiscent of kind of Before We Were Yours, and Fountains of Silence has some of that going on with it. And so, yeah, I really am interested. Like I just find that whole situation very fascinating. I know it's something that is a horrific part of a lot of history in a lot of different countries, but that was one that sounded good for me. Good to me. That makes way more sense. All right, the next book is also on sale on July 13th, and that is Yoga Pant Nation by Lori Gelman. This is the third book in the Class Mom kind of companion series. There was Class Mom, and then the next one was You've Been Volunteered, and it's basically about this woman who has a young child and then two older children. So when her son starts kindergarten, her older children are like in college. And so she's kind of having to do the Class Mom thing all over again. In this book, her youngest one is in 5th grade and she's Class Mom again. And she's having to raise a bunch of money for the 5th grade class. And so she's just kind of in this whirlwind. She has a granddaughter at this point. You know, she has two 30-year-old daughters. Then just kind of life in that environment, and these books are so funny. I loved Class Mom. It is one of my favorite books just because I felt like I could relate so much to the Class Mom aspect of it, just dealing with parents and teachers and school and drama and all of that. And then in You've Been Volunteered, I believe her son was in 2nd grade maybe, and so just kind of dealing with all of it again. And so I am very much looking forward to the third installment in this. All right. The next book is A Woman of Intelligence by Karen Tanabe. I don't know. And this comes out on July 20th. And this is it's set in the 1950s, I believe. I'll double check that. 1940s and 50s, we'll say. and it takes place in Manhattan, and it is about a Manhattan socialite who just is very well versed. She's Ivy League educated, she speaks 4 languages, she's a single girl in Manhattan, and she's a translator at the newly formed United Nations and works there. And then she is approached by the FBI, and they want her to become an undercover spy for them. And so it's just kind of about that. And espionage, spy stuff is one of my like hot button things. And so I am very excited to check that one out. All right, and then next we have The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams. You guys, this book sounds so good. It comes out on August 3rd, and it is about this girl who works in a library, she's just this anxious teenager. She's working at the local library. She finds a crumpled up piece of paper in the back of a book that ends up being a reading list. And so just kind of on a whim, she decides she's going to read through this list. And in doing that, it says, intrigued and a little bored, she impulsively checks out every book on the list, one after the other. As each story gives up its magic, the books transport Alicia from the painful reality she's facing at home. And then a old Jewish widower comes in to the library, and he is desperate to forge a connection with his granddaughter, who is an avid reader. And so Alicia passes the reading list on to him, hoping that it will be a lifeline for him too. And so then the teenager at the library and the old man start forming a friendship, and it just sounds so good. All over a reading list at a local library. Like, I can't. This book, you guys, sounds so good. So I cannot wait for that. That comes out, like I said, on August 3rd. All right, and then let's see. The next one I have here is, let's see. All right, Tin Camp Road by Ellen Airgood. This is about a mother and daughter who they live in the Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I forget that people who don't live in the Midwest probably don't know when I say the UP. They probably don't know what that means. Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And they just live out kind of in the middle of nowhere. It says where the local school has classes of 4 children, and the nearest hospital is a helicopter ride away. They live frugally. The mom has patchwork, type of jobs, and then their landlord basically decides to evict them and instead starts renting the house out to like summer rentals. And so all of a sudden they don't know what to do, and so they kind of have to come together and find out, are they going to stay in this really, really rural area, or are they going to move to a more urban area where there's more opportunity. And so anyway, it sounded really interesting, one I would like to check out. All right, and then the next one that I have here is called Delia Suits Up by Amanda Axel. This is on sale, or comes out on August 3rd as well. And this is like a combination of 13 going on 30 and She's a Man. So it's about this girl who is kind of having failed interview after failed interview after failed interview, and she thinks like, if only I were a man, this would all be easier. And so she wakes up and she's in a man's body, or other people see her as a man. And so she's kind of having to, navigate that and decide, is this really double standards? Are people really going to treat me differently now that they see me as a man? All that kind of stuff. And so, I thought that would be interesting. All right, the next one that I have here also sounds so good. The Light of Luna Park by Addison Armstrong comes out on August 10th. And this is like one of those obscure things about history. That's one of my favorite historical fiction things, is like obscure pieces of history that nobody's ever really heard of before. But this is about the first incubators that were used for premature babies. And so it says New York City, 1926, there is a nurse who her heart is near breaking when she witnesses another premature baby die at Bellevue Hospital. So when she reads an article detailing amazing survival rates of babies treated in incubators at an exhibit in Luna Park, Coney Island, it feels like the miracle she's been searching for. But the doctors at the hospital dismiss her and the unconventional medicine. forcing to make a choice between the baby's life and the doctor's wishes. She is forced to choose between saving the baby's life and the doctor's wishes. 25 years later, Stella Wright is falling apart. Her mother's just passed away. She quit a job she loves and her marriage is struggling. Then she discovers a letter that brings into question everything she knew about her mother and everything she knows about herself. Sounds so good. So yeah, it's all about the first incubators and how they came from Coney Island. Who knew? I didn't. So yeah. All right. Another library book. The Last Chance Library comes out on August 31st. This is by Freya Sampson, and this is all about a library who the town is threatening to shut it down. And so this librarian, who is very just quiet and reserved, is forced to kind of get out there and kind of rally the community around this library and really put herself out there. And so that sounded like a lot of fun. It takes place in England. Another one that I thought sounded interesting, this is kind of like one I have not reservations about. It sounds good, but we'll see. It's called The Bennett Women. It's by Eden Apia Kubi. It is a Pride and Prejudice retelling that is about these 3 women that live in a dorm. And so it's Longbourn University. They are at the Bennett House, which is an all-women's dorm at this prestigious university, and it's just about each of their love lives. There's EJ, who's an ambitious Black engineering student, her best friend Jamie, who is a newly out trans woman studying French and theater, and Tessa, who is a Filipina astronomy major with guy trouble. And so that just sounded very different from like the normal Pride and Prejudice retellings. And so I thought that might be good to give a shot. Another one that just kind of piqued my interest a lot of it, is Letters to Amelia by Lindsay Zier Vogel. This comes out on September 7th. And this is about a woman who is just kind of dealing with some grief on things that have recently ended in her life. And so she starts reading the newly discovered letters that Amelia Earhart wrote to her lover, Jean Vidal. And so she becomes captivated by the pilot and these letters, and she just gets into reading them, and then she starts writing letters to Amelia to kind of navigate her own life and what's going on with that. So that sounded fun. Another retelling that I thought would be really fun is So Many Beginnings by Bethany C. Morrow. This is a Little Women retelling that is told during Civil War time era, but about Black sisters. And so 4 young Black sisters come of age during the American Civil War, and this is a YA retelling of Little Women. It's North Carolina, 1863. And so yeah, war rages. The Freedmen's colony of Roanoke Island is blossoming, a haven for the recently emancipated. Black folk have begun building a community of their own, a refuge from the shadow of the old life. It is where the March family has finally been able to safely put down roots with 4 young daughters. And so, yeah, it just sounded like a really good retelling of Little Women. All right, the next one is another spy-centered novel, and it's called A Most Clever Girl, a novel of an American spy. This is by Stephanie Marie Thornton. And this one has to do with the Cold War, I believe. Yeah, a double agent that is spying for the Russians and the United States. That's all I really knew. And I was like, yes, please. 1963, reeling from the death of her mother and President Kennedy's assassination, Catherine Gray shows up on Elizabeth Bentley's doorstep demanding answers to the shocking mystery she just uncovered about her family. What she doesn't expect is for Bentley to ensnare her in her own story of becoming a controversial World War II spy and Cold War informer. Yeah, sign me up for that one, for sure. All right, another, I don't know if you would call this YA adult book that I am very, very much looking forward to is The Hill We Climb and Other Poems by Amanda Gorman. This comes out on September 21st, and I was among many, many, many people who probably went out and immediately pre-ordered this after Amanda Gorman's performance of her poem during the inauguration of President Biden. She's an amazing poet, and I cannot wait to read her other poetry. I think it's going to be phenomenal. So, yeah, she's just a young Black poet, and I just think that I cannot wait, because her performance during the inauguration was just absolutely mind-blowing. All right, and then the last book on this list is another library related book, and it's called The Library by Bella Osborne. And this is once again about two different generations that are thrown together to save their local library. So Tom is a teenager, blends into the background of life. After a row with his dad and facing an unhappy future at the dog food factory, he escapes to the library. Tom unwittingly ends up with a bag full of romance novels and comes upon under the suspicion of Maggie. Maggie is a pensioner and has been happily alone for 10 years. At least that's what she tells herself. When Tom comes to her rescue, a friendship develops that could change her life. As Maggie helps Tom to stand up for himself, Tom helps Maggie realize the mistakes of her past don't have to define her future. So very similar to the other one, but also different. And so, yeah, that one sounded fun. And that one comes out on September 2nd. So, yeah, those are the books that I am so excited about that are coming out in July, August, September of 2021. If any of these have been on your radar, if you are adding any of these to your TBR, let me know. I would love to hear about that. Let me know what books you're looking forward to coming out in the next few months. And other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.